One of the best things about comics is the amazing powers creators can bestow on characters. One such character is Wolverine, and he's famous for being able to heal from almost anything. Along with an adamantium-laced skeleton, this guy is near indestructible. But there's another healer climbing up the ranks of pop culture, the merc with a mouth, Deadpool. So, who's the champ at patching themselves up? Welcome to the Review Desk. I'm Desmond Carrick, and today we'll see who's got the better healing factor. The origin of Deadpool's abilities is closely tied to his fellow Canadian, Wolverine. Yeah, that's right, they're both Canadian. Sorry, America. Don't worry, you still got Spider-Man. So, without further ado, let's take a closer look at these healers, starting with Wolverine. The level of Wolverine's healing really depends on the writer. In his early days, Logan's power was nowhere near as formidable as it is today. In Uncanny X-Men 173, released in 1983, he actually almost dies after having been poisoned. But in the lead up to 2015's Civil War event, Wolverine was caught in an explosion that left nothing but his adamantium skeleton intact, an act he completely healed from. So the standard for these days is Logan's healing factor uses his peak condition as a sort of default setting and will attempt to get him back to that as fast as it can. He can heal damaged tissue, from a scar to destroyed limbs, in a matter of seconds. It also drastically slows his aging. He was born in the late 19th century, making him older than most X-Men, even Xavier and Magneto, but he still has the physical appearance of a man in his prime. But as powerful as his healing factor is, he's not indestructible. In X-Men Volume 2, Issue 25, during the Fatal Attraction storyline, Magneto tore the adamantium out of Wolverine's body through his pores, pushing his healing powers to their very limit. Wolverine almost died as a result. As a side note, it did allow writers to explain Wolverine's increased healing. It was stated that the removal of adamantium caused Wolverine to regress to a feral state, which increased his senses, strength, and, you guessed it, his healing. He had his bones laced with adamantium again by Apocalypse during the 12 crossover, putting a stop to his regression while maintaining the increased level of his abilities. More recently, in X-Men Volume 6, Issue 29, it's been explained that the effectiveness of his healing factor depends on his calorie intake. This one line clears up decades of inconsistencies in one fell swoop. Canonically, Wolverine's adamantium skeleton has never been broken. No, we're not taking that incident from Ultimate Wolverine vs. Hulk into account, because in that universe, a simple missile destroyed an adamantium cage. But if they were broken, his healing factor could regenerate bone covered in the exotic metal, provided the limb in question wasn't broken at the joint. This is because his healing factor even took the metal on his bones and transformed it to adamantium beta, granting it organic properties. This was necessary, or Logan's bones wouldn't be able to absorb elements like calcium, and he'd constantly suffer metal poisoning. He's immune to poisons. His body eliminates fatigue toxins, which means he has incredible stamina. It also means he can't get drunk. But I'll leave it to you to decide if that's a pro or a con. And his healing does come with some cons. His powers attempt to keep his mind safe, but it does so by burying traumatic memories. For a long time, there are gaps in Wolverine's memories, gaps that he was unaware his own body created. However, it is possible to kill Wolverine, and it all has to do with his brain, something that none other than Professor Charles Xavier intended to use against him. Excalibur issue 100 introduces the Xavier protocols, special parameters developed by Xavier to terminate powerful mutants, should the need arise. Wolverine's protocol stated that his brain runs the show when it comes to the healing, so you'd have to sever his head and keep it far away from his body lest it reattach, or deprive him of oxygen long enough for his brain to die off. The Hulk, in his Green Scar persona, also targeted Wolverine's brain in a clever way to incapacitate him. By punching the old Knucklehead repeatedly, making his brain bounce around in that hard adamantium casing, Hulk effectively gave Logan a concussion. It turns out there's a bunch of ways to kill Wolverine, as he himself explains in the comic, Wolverine killing made simple. These include removing his healing powers and watch him slowly die of metal poisoning, decapitating him with a magically imbued sword, pull a Superman and toss him into the sun where even adamantium will melt, or de-age him and watch his adamantium skeleton tear him to shreds because it'll keep the shape of an adult. No, seriously. Still, even with all these methods, you not only have to get close to Wolverine, which is incredibly difficult considering his other abilities, such as his heightened senses and extensive fighting abilities. Oh, and those 30cm knives he has coming out of his hands. So you see, very few people would stand a chance against Wolverine. But amongst the ranks of those that do is Deadpool. 2016's film Deadpool was very faithful to the character. But if there's one thing that still bothers me a little, it's that they didn't include his connection to Wolverine. In the comics, the same program that laced Wolverine's bones with a highly durable metal adamantium also attempted to copy his mutant healing power and graft it to a normal human, Wade Wilson. The program allegedly had a minor success when Logan's healing factor was distilled and granted to fellow mutant Silver Fox. I say minor because while she was granted a healing factor, it worked much slower than Wolverine's or Sabretooth's. If the process involving Wade Wilson succeeded, Weapon X could proceed to build an army of soldiers who could easily regenerate in battle. When Wade Wilson volunteered for the program, he was already diagnosed with cancer. The intended goal was that the distilled healing factor return his body to peak physical condition. However, as with many man-made things, it couldn't live up to the real deal. Instead of taking his peak physical condition as a default setting, Deadpool's new healing factor used the current state of his body, cancer and all. So every time a cancer cell dies, it's immediately regenerated. If new cells are created, they're killed off. This is what gives Deadpool his scarred appearance and unstable mind. Still, his healing factor works quite efficiently. Unlike Wolverine's, it doesn't run on autopilot. Wade needs to actively will his body into healing, the same way you need to tell your arm to reach for something, and it's highly dependent on his mental state. One time, Wade had trouble growing back a single finger because he wasn't in the right state of mind. It's also been shown to be more effective for him to simply reattach severed limbs instead of regrowing them. But don't count the articulate assassin out just yet. He's got a few tricks up his sleeve that Wolverine doesn't. Remember when we talk about Wolverine's brain being vulnerable? Deadpool has no such issue. He's been decapitated, had his head impaled, blown up, and was even completely incinerated. And he's regenerated from those incidents every single time. He doesn't need his brain to be intact in order to heal. As a matter of fact, the comic Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos featured an alternate reality where Dracula ordered Deadpool to be sealed in a coffin, filled with powerful acid, and then thrown into the sea. Seeing as how Deadpool later reappeared as a ghost, the method was successful. While Logan's aging is severely slowed, Deadpool has been shown to be effectively immortal. In the Messiah War one-shot X-Force Cable, the team travels 800 years into the future where Deadpool is still very much alive, owing to the fact that his healing factor regenerates every cell to the exact age they were at the time that he received his powers. So, if you want efficiency, Wolverine wins hands down. But if you want to play the long game and get more bang for your buck, Deadpool's way is the only way. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.